In this video, we're going to get started with PTC Creo and get acquainted with its user interface. PTC Creo is a very powerful computer-aided design software tool that was developed a few decades ago under the name of Pro Engineer. I'm using Creo on a personal computer, so I have my Global Protect set up and I have Creo installed down here. If you're using a lab computer, it's going to look a little more like this when you type Creo into the search bar at the bottom. There are different editions of the software available. These editions are tailored for specific needs, and there's a lot of differences between them, but there's also some overlap between them as well. This top one that's highlighted is Creo Parametric, which is what I'll be using for these tutorial videos. I'm using version 9, what's shown here is version 6, but it's very similar from one version to the next. Next, you can see Creo Direct, which is a lightweight version of PTC Creo. It does not have the powerful parametric tools that Creo Parametric has, but it can be used for casual 2-dimensional and 3-dimensional modeling. Then you have Creo Layout, which is used to create and edit 2-dimensional layouts. You have Creo Simulate, which is used for simulations, and View Express, which is mainly used to view 2-dimensional and 3-dimensional CAD models. Lastly, you have Model Check, which can be used to check whether the design is compatible and in compliance with industry standards. Since I already have Creo installed, I'm going to boot that up now. Now that Creo is open, I'm going to close the Resource Center to show you the front face of the software. As you can see, there's a window here with different tabs that you can use to access the online resources available from the PTC community. In this first tab, you can explore tutorials, instructions, and videos available for free. And in the second tab, you can search through their extensive library of common parts. So if you're looking for a standard screw or part, you don't need to design it from scratch. You can just search through this library to find your part. We always want to start by setting our working directory properly. The working directory is the folder that you choose to let the software know that this is where it should look for references and save your parts. You can click Select Working Directory and then look through all the folders available and select the location that you want to work out of. I've selected the folder that I'm interested in, so I'm going to say OK. At this point, you have two options. You can either create a new Creo file, which can be a part, assembly, or drawing, or you can open one that is already generated. I've generated a part that I want to have in the background while we're talking about the interface of the software. So I'm going to open it and it'll bring me straight to my working directory, and this is the part that I'm looking for. The best option to open a file is to open Creo and select the file as I've just shown you. It's not good practice to go to the file directly in your Windows Explorer and double click on it. This is because there's a chance that the file might open up with a different edition of the software like I showed you earlier. So it's best to open it using PTC Creo Parametric. Now that we have the part open, we can get into the user interface. First, I want to show you the Tools ribbon, which is where you have all the tools to create, analyze, and simulate a 2-dimensional or 3-dimensional model. And it's right here at the top. It's broken down into different tabs based on the category of the work that you want to do. You can see model, analysis, live simulation, or it's also broken down into groups, again, based on the application. So for instance, in the datum group, you have all the tools you need to create a datum. In the shapes group, you have all the tools necessary to create 3-dimensional shapes, and so on. The next section is the In-Graphics toolbar, right up here. And this is how you can change the appearance of the object that you're working with. You can use these tools to zoom in, zoom out, or fit to the page. You can use this to change the appearance if I want shading with edges, or if I want to see hidden lines. This is the way to do it. You can also change the orientation. There's some default orientations, the back, the front, bottom, top. And then there's the standard orientation, which I would like to point out is trimetric orientation. If you're coming from SolidWorks, the default is isometric. It's also easy to set isometric as a default view if you would like to. Next, you can change the datums that you're seeing. If you want to hide any axes, you can see I had an axis right here, and I can add that right back. I can hide the planes, or everything. The next section that I'd like to discuss is the graphics window, which is everything right here that you're seeing, whether it's a part, a drawing, or an assembly. Next is the selection filter, which is down here. You can use it to filter out different features if you're working with a complex model or drawing. By default, in a part, the geometry is selected. Next, down here is the status bar. This is where you'll see the status of the model and any errors or information about errors. If you're coming from a software such as SolidWorks, in most cases, you will not see a pop-up window describing the error. You'll just see the error information down here. So if you see that you cannot proceed and something is wrong, but you don't see a pop-up window for the error, you should look down here in the bottom left and it'll give you more information. The next section I like to talk about is the model tree, which is on the left side over here. It shows the datum planes, the coordinate system, if you add your own coordinate system or datum planes, axes, points, and it also shows the different features that I've used to create this model. Lastly, you have the quick access toolbar, which is at the top up here. This is how you can access commonly used features. Some are there by default, but if you use a certain feature a lot, you can just add it by right-clicking and selecting Add to Quick Access Toolbar, and it'll pop up right here. And you can remove it anytime as well. So just to review the interface, up top we have the Tools ribbon. Right here we have the In-Graphics toolbar. Here we have the graphics window. Down here we have the selection filter. Down here we have the status bar. On the left is the model tree, and at the top is the quick access toolbar. There are a few more features that I'd like to review before I wrap up this video. Over here in File is where you can open a new part, open an existing part, and save. These three can also be seen up top here. This is also where you can save as, and one thing to note is that when you save as in SolidWorks, it will close the old part that you're working on and open the new part. In Creo, it will save the new one as a backup and you will continue working on the original part. This is also where you can close your file. The next thing I want to bring to your attention is Manage File right here. This is where you can rename and delete old versions, and let me show you why this is useful. I've just opened up my working directory, and you can see that Creo uses PRT as the extension for parts. Next to it, you can see the variation number of this part. Mine is number 1. Every time I click Save, it saves a new variation of the part. This is helpful if you're trying to keep track of your changes, but in most cases, we are not interested in this. We're only interested in the most recent version of the file. If you don't see these new variations popping up, you need to enable it in your windows by going to View and selecting file name extensions right here. It's important to save frequently in case your Creo crashes, and then you can delete old versions of the part before moving on to a model. If your part is not saved in the working directory properly, this feature will not work, which is why that's so important. So if I'm all set with this part, I'm happy with variation 3. I'm going to go to File, Manage File, and delete old versions. And only part 3 is in my working directory right now. The last feature I want to go over in this video is Manage Session, right here. This is where you can reset your working directory if needed, the same way we did in the beginning. This is also where you can choose to erase not displayed. If I created this model and I'm ready to move on to something else, I'm going to save, delete old versions, and close. However, it's still going to be in the memory of the software, and I would like to get rid of it. To do this, I'm going to File, Manage Session, and Erase Not Displayed. You can see that the part is closed, but it's still here in the memory, so I'm going to close that too.